Hey, good evening. It's Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous. My music that I used to play, for some reason, it got caught up in the copyright issue, even though it's not copyrighted. So there's no music. My apologies. No big deal to you, probably big deal to me, but it is what it is. So welcome to Friday Night Live. Again, this is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous. I am your divorce coach, a facilitator of support groups, a domestic mediator, and someone who really cares about you getting through the trauma of divorce. I've been working with people going through divorce for the past 17 years. And during that time, I have worked with literally hundreds of individuals. And so, stories, I have heard a lot of stories. They're each individual, they're each independently painful, but there are a lot of similarities. And so I want to talk tonight about a specific group, and that is gray divorce. It's a term that's used for those who are over 50 going through divorce. It has maybe some special uniqueness about it, where other marriages who have been possibly married for a shorter period of time, 10 years, 15 years, and you're younger, have unique qualities, but in the gray divorce area, it's different. I must say, for the people that I work with, and I've worked with many, and they have a specific, I don't know, disappointment, different fears perhaps than a lot of people who are much younger. So I want to address that tonight and chat with it, about it, and just speak to how we can survive it. Gray divorce, how do I survive it? So, divorce is difficult enough, but if you're over your 50s, you are pretty set in your ways and you have these expectations and beliefs about the rest of your life and how it's going to go. So, the trauma comes in, the disruption of divorce, and you are bewildered because you don't know what life is going to be anymore. You had this projected dream. You were going to retire. You were going to enjoy the grandkids. You were going to travel, whatever those dreams were. And now they are totally disrupted. And you realize, wait, I am too old to start over. Well, you're not. I wanted to assure you, you are not, because I have worked with many people and I've given them some of the tips that I'm going to give to you tonight. So let's start with the things that we need to be careful of and the uniqueness about the gray divorce. One is retirement. Your retirement is well established at this point, probably, although I've worked with people in their 50s and beyond who have no retirement. But for most of us, there is some retirement. So this requires perhaps a little more complex because it may be several accounts that you have established, or perhaps you have property that you were going to use as retirement that now needs to be sold, or one of the parties needs to purchase. So, retirement can be one of those really sticky issues. Not impossible. As I do mediations, we look at it, we look at what are the numbers and how do we divide this. There's something called a quadro, which allows someone going through divorce to take a portion of a retirement account and move it to another retirement account and without penalties or taxes. So sometime I should speak on that specifically, but there are means in place that can allow you to shift and move your retirement into your own account. So that can be something that's very helpful and explained in mediation or with your attorney. They're going to explain that to you. But as in all divorces, we are looking typically at a division of all assets and all debts of 50-50. Now, it doesn't have to be straight down the line. There are ways to negotiate back and forth depending on what the parties want. But retirement is well established, probably in this case, unless it's your second or third divorce, then perhaps not. But retirement is an issue of consideration that needs to be reviewed and you need to be informed about. So you can look up Quadro, you can Google it, you can call me and we'll chat about it, whatever you need to do. But there are ways in which to handle it. So don't be overwhelmed when you think, what's going to happen to my retirement now that I'm going through a divorce? It's going to be divided. You are going to receive half of it if that's the agreement that you both make to do that. So, another thing is beneficiaries. So, chances are you've had your spouse as your beneficiary. You do need to change that. And if it is not included in the judgment of divorce, sometimes it is, you need to make sure that your beneficiaries are changed. It's to your children or to an organization or somewhere other than your former spouse. Chances are you want it changed. Um, Another issue is the marital estates. Sometimes there are um, the marital home, but there's also a cabin, or there's also a boat, or different large ticket items that need to be divided. So that's really going to depend on what it is that you want, but it is doable. It certainly is an opportunity for you to divide those assets, and you can buy out the other spouse, or you can sell it and divide the proceeds. There are, but when you're in a gray divorce, it can be a little bit more complex, but still doable. Spousal support is a big issue as you're going through divorce, a gray divorce. If you have been perhaps a woman who stayed at home, raised the kids while the husband has worked, and you don't make quite the living or quite the income that your spouse does, there needs to be some conversation about spousal support. If you did go back to work, and I'm speaking to women at this point, you did go back to work, you do have some income, then that's going to be considered. There is a calculator in which you can insert these numbers and you can figure out what the projected possibility of spousal support may be. So as a gray divorce, being in a gray divorce, chances are you have been married for a great length of time. So if it's over 10 years here in Michigan, every state varies here in Michigan. If you've been married more than 10 years, there's a probability, not a guarantee, but a probability that there will be spousal support. So it really depends on the difference in income. And so that is something that can be reviewed and should be reviewed. Now, it's not always women. I have worked in cases where the women have a higher income than the men do. And so again, we're going to put those numbers in the calculator, and it does happen that sometimes women are paying spousal support if there is a big discrepancy in income. So it happens. So spousal support is one of those things that need to be discussed. So what's going to happen as you go into mediation is, again, you're going to look at how do we do a basic 50-50 split. Now, we can negotiate. I don't want you to touch my retirement, but you can have the house. There are different ways in which you can negotiate that. But basically, we're looking at how do we split evenly the assets and also the debts. Um, so let me talk about now, that's all the fundamental part of the fundamental things to discuss. Let me talk about the emotional part of it. That's hard. That's hard. You have lost a huge dream, an expectation that you had of what your future was going to look like, what it was going to be. That security piece that you believed was going to be there is now shattered and gone. Well, this is a time for you to explore your options, to look at what are my options now. You are going to have some assets from the marriage. And now is an opportunity for you to decide how you want to live the rest of your life. Now, let me share with you, it takes time to grieve this relationship, to really face these losses that you are going through. It's not simply, okay, well, that's done. Now I'm moving forward. No, those losses are huge. and they need to be grieved, and you need to allow yourself to be compassionate to yourself of what you were going through. It's a lot. It's a lot on you. And that's another reason why you need a support group. I have had many people, men and women who are older, coming into the support group because they need to know that they have hope, that there is still life after divorce. Yes, even if you're in your 60s or in your 70s, there is still hope after divorce. The question you are wondering is, will I survive? Am I going to make it? You absolutely are going to make it. Even in your later years, it is possible for you to redevelop and redesign and recreate a beautiful life. So, how will I live? Well, you need to work through the divorce. You need to see where it is that you've landed financially, and look at, how do I want to live? Do I want to simplify? I hope so, because life is complicated enough. And your years of earning income can be shortened at this point. So simplify, simplify, simplify. I say that to everyone that's in my coaching or in my support groups. You need to simplify. Build it back bit by bit, piece by piece. So simplify first, get the very basics. Take care of your emotional needs. Get the support that you need. Don't put it on your adult kids. I don't care how old they are. They're still going through their own trauma because mom and dad are divorcing. So you cannot use them as your therapist or your advisor. You need to get people, professional, whether that's a support group or a therapist or someone who's going to help you articulate and process all that is going on inside of you. You will live. In fact, you can even flourish after a gray divorce. You can. I've seen it happen. But the question really is, have you created a life other than a life with your spouse? If you've not, if you've always done, connected at the hip, and you've always done everything together, it's going to be more difficult for you. You're going to need to spend some time and discover who you are and what your interests are, because you may have totally forgotten those. But if you have created somewhat of an independent life along with a life with your spouse, then just focus more on, what are those independent things that I love to do that I've done in the past? And let me focus there to get myself acclimated to being a single person. So, again, if you have lived very closely, really dependent upon your spouse, it's going to be more difficult, not impossible. And you need to be intentional in getting that support to get through it. But if you have had also your individual interest, then focus on those along with getting the support you need and getting the help you need to go through this trauma. So life is always unpredictable, and there are no guarantees in it except for the love of God and his provision. And as you go through this very difficult stage at a time when you never expected that you would be going through it, it is especially important that you rely and you seek the face of God, and you ask him simply to hold you and to help you and to comfort you and to love you. Ask him that, because you need it. Your life has just been torn upside down. There are just a few verses that I like to share with you. One is in Isaiah. Even to your own age and grayed hairs, I am he, this is God talking, I am he who will sustain you. I have made you, I will carry you, I will sustain you, and I will rescue you. Take comfort in that verse. Even when I'm old and gray, do not forsake me, God. till I declare your power to the next generation, your mighty acts to all who are to come. This is a time really to focus on what is my legacy that I want. I don't want it to be the legacy of a divorce to my grandkids and to my kids. So, what do I want my legacy to be? What do I want to teach and train the future generations? It's a time to really be able to focus on that and to ask yourself, what is it that you want to leave behind? And maybe you haven't even thought of it before, but this kind of brings life and perspective. And so it's a time to ask, what do I want my legacy to be? And to be focusing on speaking the goodness of God to those generations, our children and our grandchildren behind us. Psalm 73:46. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. So, really going through this divorce in your later years, when you never expected it, when you were devastated by it, there is life on the other side of divorce, and your attitude determines it all. Will you look at this as an opportunity for growth? And you may think, I'm too old to grow. No, you're not too old to grow. There are things and life lessons for us still to learn, that we may turn our dependence away from an individual and unto the true lover of our soul, God, who cares so profoundly for you and will not, if you allow him to, let you fail. So your attitude and your faith right now is really what is going to matter. You can take even this, and make it for good. I hope something in this has been of help to you, that you can have the hope to believe, even though I'm over 50, even though I'm in my 60s or 70s, I still can have faith that God and life are going to work out. Because there is still good in life. There is still hope for a future. There is still time for you to create and to make dreams for yourself. Don't give up on life, because there's a lot of it yet to live. This is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous, walking with you every step of the way through the trauma and after the trauma of divorce. Have a good evening.